just so I don't forget. Somebody got any good Jim Lloyd jokes?
Not that are, not that are video. Not that are video.
My wife she loves me.
Well, did you see that he put on Facebook this post about having cancer and all this? And it was as if it was, he was writing it and there's something
Yes.
that he had, and I said, then he wanted to, it was an obvious copy and paste thing, but it didn't say that at the bottom of the post. And there were people that were thinking, I think, that he had cancer. And then finally, I just saw today he posted, I just took, I'm not the author of this, I just posted this on here. I hate that, I alarmed anybody. I said, oh, Jim, you could have done that.
He's probably watching.
He might well be. Hi, Jim.
If he is, text us.
Text me, Jim. You don't like my story.
Let's get out of the car. Is Linda coming?
She does. Linda parks down here, so hopefully it's her. She's got her chair too.
Hey Scott, you want, in addition to the smoker that's down there, there's two wooden chairs, like pine chairs. Are those yours?
We just brought them down there to put with picnic tables. It's not, I mean, I just,
You can leave them there.
yeah, that's what the plan was.
Oh, all right.
Leave it there at the garden with picnic tables.
That's fine.
Somebody just gave it to me that was on a job.
Those people above me asked you about the ladder, that was yours. That ladder's still there, lights are still on, I don't know if we're doing out.
I got my ladder, David.
Yeah, it's.
You're okay. Everybody was early tonight.
You're right under the wire.
Everybody's anxious.
You're right under the wire.
No, Article 9 said we can get out
Oh my
of
God,
here
please.
before the bar closes.
I thought about going up to the clubhouse for their special.
What is the special tonight?
Meatball sub.
Meatballs.
Meatball sub. Meatball sub. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
Thought they broadcast that out there in case anybody.
Didn't want to be.
And we're sponsored by the clubhouse tonight. Stop by for a meatball sub.
That's right.
Anybody do the buffet at the lodge for St. Patty's Day?
I did.
That was great.
It was good.
Yeah, it was.
I know they had a heck of a good night.
Oh, good. Glad to hear it.
I think they had a good weekend.
I think the clubhouse probably did as well.
They did too. Yeah.
No, it's
I
not.
saw a picture on Facebook, it looked like the place was wall to wall.
I saw the numbers and they had a real good weekend, as did upstairs.
I'm giving this everything to form.
Okay. That's on top.
You can't make money
He
on
does.
St. Patrick's
You
Day.
You got a
You're
problem.
the wrong person.
Upstairs, it's had great.
We should have renamed
Thank
it
you so much. You have
McLodge.
jet lag?
No, I'm good.
McLodge.
Yeah.
The old clubhouse?
Well, they had a good weekend going 2 weeks ago. The power went out at 7. Had them on, they probably lost $1,300 worth of income.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. Let's call to order the Board of Trustees meeting of March 19, 2019. Everyone that's in attendance who was expected to be. We have one person who's gone, and another person who had a personal reason for to be unable to make it tonight. I would like to make one change in the agenda. It's just a timing aspect. We used the form from last month and had put Craig Bataston for the treasurer's report, replacing Tom Matthews because he was not available. And I would like Tom Matthews to list that on your agenda, the time will be given the treasurer's report. Can I have a motion for that, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Dave
second.
Miller, Scott Martin, seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. The President's report, I think, focus on all the things that are coming ahead of us and all the challenges and excitement that we have as the water comes back up, although the water never went down. It's back up to normal pool. Fortunately, we were doing the diagnostics on the dam all winter long, and it's been very consistent even with the higher water. The readings on the piezometers are well within our normal expectations, so that's a really good thing, certainly, because as we've seen, other places are having issues with flooding. I saw just recently Lake Hope State Park is now going to have a remediation on their dam as well, as they're seeing some failures there. So,
Excuse me, Jim, did we not do the motion to adopt the agenda, or was that the?
I guess we amended it, and then we should, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a motion to then adopt the amended agenda. Thank you, Babe.
I'll move that.
Greg? Second. Second from Scott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Linda? It was fun. Did you approve the adopting the agenda? We had to.
I did.
Very good. We have a unanimous vote to adopt the amended agenda. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Just wanted to do one, not two. It's okay. As you know, by the time the end of the month comes in April, we'll have the boats back in the water. So I see Sue is here. We're moving on that. We've got other issues that are coming up with our dams. We'll have to work through them. We're looking at solutions with that. But I think my message tonight is that we've got a lot of good things and a lot of fun things, and hopefully we're making it through. Next week is this week is the first day of spring, and so hopefully everybody will participate in normal Hideaway Hills fashion and work through these processes, because with as many things as we have, we're going to need lots of volunteers. So folks, whether it's the auction for social, whether it's putting the boats in, other things that we got coming up, please continue to volunteer and do things in your normal fashion, and we'll look forward. And if so, I'm sure we'll have another good year. All right, with that, I will now turn over to Eric, who has indicated that he has 3 letters of correspondence to read. Could you begin, please?
Yes. Yeah, I got 3 letters. First one is from Jeannie Green. Dear board members, I would like to make you aware of a situation that has been an ongoing problem at the lodge and clubhouse for at least the past 4 years that I have worked for the club. On Sunday, March 17th, the clubhouse ran out of our microbrew, in parentheses, pale ale in this instance, and none was available at the lodge. This was especially troublesome as it was Sunday, when we can't sell any other beers. In addition, it was St. Patty's Day, and we had a number of people who had come in for green beer that were disappointed. This situation has happened fairly often. We have had weeks where we only had one of our microbrews available, and on occasion last year where we had none of our brews available. Being out of our beer is disappointing to members who regularly come in for their favorite brew, in addition to being a potential loss of profit. Our liquor license was approved based on the microbrewery, but it appears that the brew kettles are often sitting empty and/or we have no beer in kegs. Would it be more beneficial for them to always be in use? Could we possibly try adding a third, seasonal flavor to enhance sales? Try to get our brew in outside restaurants to increase exposure, or lease the kettles out to other breweries for a profit? I believe the potential risk is a lack of keg. A potential issue is a lack of keg washing facilities, but has anyone looked into leasing these facilities from surrounding breweries who would like the income? Maybe a mutually beneficial situation could be to allow them to sell our beer in return for keg washing. Or, if this is a matter of not having available personnel to assist with brewing, many members have expressed an interest in helping out. Maybe an ad hoc committee could look into these and other ideas for feasibility. It was brought to my attention that board members possibly were not aware of this problem when it arises, so if you would like, I will keep you informed when this happens in the future. Sincerely, Jeannie Green, 351 Osage Lane. My second letter is also from Jeannie. Dear board members, I'm ready to express my thoughts regarding the deck that was planned for the lodge. I have heard and seen many, often contradictory opinions, ideas, and plans regarding this deck. While I believe this deck would be a wonderful asset, I would like to discuss the details and fundraising surrounding the project. About 2 years ago, a plan was developed to add a deck to the lounge area of the lodge. This plan eventually included engineering input to ensure safety considerations for a commercial structure. The initial deck was to be fairly plain, but would meet the basic needs of expanding the lounge and providing a small second level for a much-needed smoking area for lodge patrons. The people involved with the initial planning approached the Fun, Food, and Fellowship Committee and asked for fundraising assistance. Many members contributed time and money because they thought that a deck would be an enhancement to the lounge. Initial fundraising efforts, I feel, lacked clear direction and detail. Costs have gone from about $8,000 to over $100,000, and the deck plans have expanded from a simple deck to a large two-tiered wraparound deck with upgraded furnishings and lower-level improvements, including a fire pit and seating. The scope of the project has gone from an adult-only smoking area off the lounge to a non-smoking family-friendly deck with dining room-only access. As of the last board meeting, though, I believe the physical project has again been changed, yet again, by scaling back some due to the failure of securing additional funding. This project has been ongoing for over 2 years and has been so fluid and changing that at this point, I am not sure most members understand what the final project is or what the cost will be. I feel that our many donors may have donated to a project that has changed in size and scope, and if given the current proposal, may not have donated at all. I feel that the undefined state of this project can and will affect future fundraising efforts for other projects. At this point, I'd like to see the money given back to the members, donations and amenities money, and a new plan initiated with member feedback that details size, configuration, and policy. Only when a clear and detailed plan has been formulated and approved should fundraising be reconsidered. Respectfully, Jeannie Green, 351 Osage. And my last one is from Bob Sorrell. Dear respective Hideaway Hills board members, staff, and guests. Thanks for this opportunity to share my thoughts and respect to the ongoing efforts of our club's Raise the Deck campaign. I first wish to acknowledge all the individuals who have personally spent hours and time and effort in attempting to make this worthy lodge improvement come to fruition. It has been brought to everyone's attention the development of our deck and the recalculated cost incurred for its completion is more than anyone anticipated based on our original concept of what we envisioned. It is my understanding that the plans we have in hand include some incurred costs that are related to the integrity and safety standards that we all know are necessary in any publicly used improvement. I had the opportunity to discuss the project even further this past week with Jim Krieger, who enlightened me even further. Jim's efforts is coming to hopeful fruition with the advent of 3 forthcoming proposals/bids, which could be available to us in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully, one of these might be acceptable both in scope and, more importantly, cost. That being said, I might still welcome the thought of reassessing the project by either redrafting a new architectural proposal and or allowing some of our own creative and knowledgeable contractors participate in the development of this project. As active neighbors and members of Hideaway Hills, we have enjoyed and laid witness to some of the creative work provided by our in-house builders and contractors over the years. He lists recent clubhouse improvements, golf course shelter improvements, amphitheater development, construction, roofing projects, and luxurious single-family development, which often includes exterior deck improvements. Our community is very fortunate to have extremely talented contractors as a neighboring resource. I'm also cognizant of the development of a commercial, publicly used facility is more scrutinized by way of additional safety standards and restrictions. So I'm not minimizing the fact that this proposed deck can or should be built with like improvements that accompany residential construction. But I also feel the same rigorous standards can be employed by the concerted efforts of some of our own contractors. Like any worthwhile project, there's a cost versus benefit factor that needs to be addressed. As we receive these construction proposals from their forecasted related costs, it causes me to take pause as I wrestle with the derived benefits associated with these new expenses. My original thoughts with this project was that the advent of additional outside space of our lodge from the bar area would be a wonderful feature. Yet I do not think that anyone who has provided or is contemplating a financial contribution to date ever envisioned the need for a secondary fundraising effort. I also feel that we are treading on thin ice as a community when we seek additional volunteer funding so soon after the combined expense of the dam project and the recent loss of the proposed increase with our association fees for improvements and maintenance of our existing common areas and roads. There's also a little worthwhile concerted effort to construct a health and exercise facility taking place at the same time. The striking difference that makes our Hideaway Hills neighborhood one of the best communities in Ohio is our never-ending enthusiasm to make our development even better by the combined efforts of our volunteers and their rich talents. If only our state and federal governments could work in that same vein. So I might kindly suggest that we rethink the scope and size of this improvement, if indeed the forthcoming bids are unrealistic to our common goals, to a level which coincides to our monetary contributions raised to date, or entertain the thought of an open quorum where we allow some of our own contractual labor force to openly meet and discuss how this project can be completed in a more conservative manner, ever mindful that the final product is both safe and compliant with commercial industry standards. Additional improvements outside the original plan of the lodge deck, fire pit area, etc., can be addressed in another time in the future. If this humble suggestion is not an option, I think we as a community need to rethink the cost versus benefit of this project. My optimism and confidence in our board's leadership with our own HAH contractors' efforts and the enthusiasm of our residents suggest that we will make this happen. Again, speaking as an individual of our Hideaway Hills community, I greatly appreciate all the efforts to date by Jim Krieger and his family, Kathy Clevenger, current deck design staff, individual fundraisers, as well as contributors. These folks are all volunteers whose time, sweat, and energy in dealing with this project are sincerely appreciated. Bob Sorrell.
Thank you. The minutes. Purpose. You have copies of your minutes from the last meeting. Everybody had a chance to read them. Are there any questions regarding the minutes? I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Scott moves. Second.
Second.
Dave Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. On to you, Tom.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the treasury report showing that as of February 28th, 2019, the board checking account had $132,108.82 in the Vinton County Bank.
Second.
Motion from Tom, second from Greg. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Moving along, Mr. Kirk.
Hi. All right. First, we had a member send a letter to Randy requesting that we looked at our fire rules, having a fire in your backyard, and how it would pertain to a propane fire pit. The management committee looked at the fire pit and also the rules, and the rules are so that we don't catch the forest on fire. And a propane fire pit doesn't have sparks and that sort of thing coming off of it, so the management committee recommends that the board of trustees consider a proposal to exclude outside propane fire pits from the fire rule, therefore allowing their use.
I'd like to make that motion.
Do we have a motion? We have a second?
I'll second.
Scott seconds. Any questions? Any discussion of this? Comments at all?
I thought it was pretty well discussed at the management meeting, and everybody seemed to be on the same page.
I thought they were indeed, but
I have no problem with it, but I think Constitution should look at the phraseology to make sure it,
Might have to change, yeah.
to see what would make it change, that's all.
Okay.
I don't have a propane fire pit, I just have the old regular kind, but if you put something in that was combustible, would that burn, I'm assuming?
Well, it would, but the pictures we saw, it's, it would, but I don't.
generally they're
Don't think it would.
structure of some sort, and there's some material inside.
Yeah, ours has glass,
Yeah.
like gravel on top of it,
Yeah.
so you really, I think you would
Nobody's
be,
gonna be throwing in.
not after you spend the kind of money that they cost.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not that type of-
It's very decorative, and you wouldn't want to contaminate
Okay.
the glass beads and
All
stuff
right.
like that.
That's fair.
And it's certainly is easily or more contained than your propane gas
Okay.
grill would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right?
I can run it by Tim quickly, and then we can eval it for sure.
Yeah.
If something needs changed.
Yeah, I just where the phrase goes in, because
Right.
in dealing with these things for a couple of years, Linda and I will assure you that you get caught if you don't really think it through.
Well, I think we need to then
Remove the
withdraw the
motion.
motion
Yeah.
and then refer it to make a motion to refer to Constitution for revision or for checking.
And then we will probably do something on it within a week or so, maybe?
I would,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to withdraw? Who made the motion?
I heard
Eric did.
So I will withdraw my motion.
Was the second withdrawn as well?
Scott?
Oh, yeah, if it was me,
Okay.
I would withdraw it.
All right, so, and then a motion to refer it to the Constitution Committee. Same people.
Sure.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, next, the management committee had a discussion on naming the old Frank Panacea Realty building down front for just day-to-day business. Everything in this place has a name, and we proposed the name the Panacea Building, and we don't have the authority to actually name it, so we're proposing that you guys do that, please.
I want to see if it's okay before I make a
No,
motion.
Linda, a couple of years ago, we were doing it, Linda had some comments on naming rights, that's all.
Well, that's a long discussion, potentially. A lot of, industry have a policy on that, saying how you name, why you name, when you name, what causes you to name. So that it's a little more rigorous than, I think I'd like to name it, the Lonsinger Pharmacy, or, so there are many times policies, naming policies is what they're entitled. And so you follow those. And I think the intent is to be objective in how you name, and we don't have one of those.
Haven't we already named a few things in
No,
here?
we have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got Arkham Park,
Arkham
you
Park,
got
yeah.
Cheadle.
Right. And we actually passed, we were gonna allow, Josh to put his sign up. He was gonna donate a fire pit down here. I think he's still gonna do that this year. And we were gonna let him put a plaque on that, just saying he donated it. It's not
If nothing
necessarily
else,
named,
why couldn't
but
it be a plaque?
it could
saying
be a
this
plaque that
was
says this building's been donated
donated
by
on
Frank.
the- yeah.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that we should be objective in how we do it.
I think though, in this case, I'll disagree with you somewhat, that in the discussions with Frank, for both the building and the swamp area thing, it was implied, inferred that we would give him naming rights in exchange for those donations. Now, being totally honest though, and totally fair, when it had, because of his tax situation, it couldn't be a donation. We had to buy it for $1. They had to withdraw that portion that was in the verbiage, but I would still support the management committee recommendation.
So, I mean, that's a heck of a gift to the club,
Yeah.
really, even though it helped him with some things, it still is a gift to the club.
I don't disagree with that, but I do think that we should have some kind of policy on naming. And it should go in the rules. It should be there, and then we would use that
I
from
can support
here
that.
on out.
Is that something the Constitutional Committee could do, or is that not something?
Naming?
I'd want to look at it when we need to.
Well, yeah, we'll try to get some naming policies from other places. In the meantime, if you want, I'd make the motion that we name the building Panacea. What did you call it?
The Panacea Building.
Panacea Building. All right, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? I'll just mention one thing. I was involved in the fundraising activities at Ohio State, and there certainly were guidelines, and they had to be usually that the individual, we were recognizing them for something, or they had done something that in particular, they'd given it for a particular reason. There were some loose guidelines of the percentage of the amount of money if it was a donation that were there. But then the end all and be all in almost all of those was that the Board of Trustees reserved the right to make the decision given, the guidelines. And that was pretty much, so we had all sorts of interesting things that developed over the years. So, I think it's certainly worth it to come up with a.
Yeah, I know we
with a
can
few
pull from
pieces.
universities, because universities are replete with that kind of
Right.
policy.
I see yoga is the Ohio State, and you Marcus the OU.
Yeah.
Would it make sense, I mean, it's gonna be the Health and Wellness Center to add that, or just leave it fancy?
I don't know that we've agreed.
We've discussed that at the management meeting, and at this time, it's going to be, they're moving forward, it's gonna be a health and wellness center. 5 years from now, we're not sure what it's gonna be, so we kind of wanted to keep it
Generic?
somewhat.
Are they gonna use the whole building, or?
Yeah, I think the plan is,
Okay, I didn't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
What
They've
about
got a yoga
multi-purpose,
area.
multi-purpose, Panacea multi-purpose
Area
building?
to do yoga and exercise.
We
They
could do
couldn't have
that.
equipment.
We could, Kathy just came up with something, she said we could call it the Panacea multi-purpose building. I don't think we- What's that?
Sounds like we're at the fairgrounds.
Well, then to take a bigger sign.
You could call it the multiplex, that's a little more upscale.
Multi-what? Multiplex?
You gotta ruin it, don't you?
Well,
Just throwing it out,
Yeah.
spitballing here.
yeah,
Can I back up on your fire pit, your propane fire pit? Is there any size or anything like that, or just
the
propane?
wire that he, asked about is, I think it's a 3-foot,
It's 42 inches.
All right, but that's the one that's asked about. I'm saying, if we put in the rule, is there a size that we're going to limit it to?
I think they're limited by the
Right
manufacturer.
now,
Yeah,
rules are-
Well, but then somebody built one. How about the one that was gonna go down here?
That's not gonna be a propane one, that's gonna be a fire burner, a wood burner thing.
In our rules, it says 3 feet.
All right, so we'll stick with the same.
Well, and I think that's why he,
That's
why this came up, because it was bigger than 3 feet,
You know the size?
42 inches.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of folks that have 42 inches out here.
We might go on the websites and see what sizes they come in.
I think that was the
Maybe we should
outside
go all the way
dimension.
to a
Yes,
48 or something.
It is.
And so the actual burning pit of it was
36.
or less.
Thereabout.
Yeah.
ours is a table about that big, and the burner's only about like that.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I like to refer to Constitution is Tim, it's just so good. Tim Kraus had asked questions like that and saying before you go, so
Okay.
He is on vacation this week, I believe, so just
I'll find it.
Going to Disney World.
I'm sorry, Jim.
That's okay. I think you already did the motion, right?
Yes.
So I think we need to vote
I
on
think
it.
we do.
Panacea.
Unless there's any further discussion.
The only thing is, I just looked really quickly right here on fire, outdoor propane fire pits, I'm seeing 65-inch, 60-inch.
Nice.
So there's stuff that's much bigger than what we're talking about.
You make some long skinny ones. They
Now,
have
there's
those.
round ones
Yeah,
here, there's
so
a
if you're
round
gonna,
one
if you're
that's,
gonna limit it, you might wanna talk about square foot area of fire pit versus the square foot of the whole table. No, seriously, I mean, if you've got a fire pit that's 6 inches wide and it runs 6 feet long, it's no different than a 3 foot by 3 foot.
I guess if it's propane, what difference does it make how big it is? It's
Yeah.
not, it's still not gonna make any sparks or the problems that we're
Yeah,
worried
keep
about
things
burning wood
warm.
or having embers after it goes out like Frank Panacea did.
I'm not sure it really matters.
Okay. And
Back to the Panacea building.
Right. So we're still just gonna refer to them and ask them to bring back some language and, well, on the fire.
He's back to the thing. He's saying.
Well, I'm
we
saying,
didn't
I
think about
wanted
that.
to, no, we've not. But I wanted to make sure we closed the one topic before we move to that. Okay. So we're not changing anything further with them. Okay, now back to the Panacea building. Do we have any further discussion on the Panacea building? The motion was to name it the Panacea building. That's where we're at right now. Do we
I'll
wanna-
second that.
All right, we have a second. Who made the motion? Nobody did. You made the
I
motion.
made the motion.
He can't make the motion.
No, Greg made the motion.
I made it.
Linda
Yeah,
seconded
we've
it.
already done that.
Did we vote? We didn't vote.
No, we didn't.
No,
Well,
we didn't.
you made the motion, I seconded it.
Okay.
And then we got into discussion.
I thought we voted before he brought up the thing.
No.
Let's get it right. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Okay, the next one won't be that tough. On the subject,
We can make it.
well, we probably could. On the subject, it could be tough for you guys, but it wasn't tough for us. On the subject of posting the directory, the Hideaway Hills directory, on the website, management committee, and we actually had quite a few people there that Tuesday night, and we took a poll of everybody that was there, and it was 80% in favor of putting it on the website with the, the little bit of the password protection. And we just wanted to pass that on to you so that when you consider that, you've got our feelings on it.
But what, the website's not password protected?
Yeah.
No, but that file is.
Okay, all right, so, all right.
Are you planning on getting rid of the hard copy now?
No. You're gonna print that.
Some discussion was that people might not buy it as much if
I could see it going away over.
if we put it in there, less people might purchase it than,
Lose revenue.
The way it's posted now, it's posted in two formats. The Excel format that is evergreen, and as somebody sells, the office can update it, and we've all got it to use. And the other format is basically the same format they send to the printer. It's PDF file. So if somebody wanted it, they could burn up their printer and go through their ink cartridge and print their own if they want. But both will be available behind the password if we go forward with it.
Yeah, that's the question, is how people feel about it. At this point, of course, we have a paper copy, and certainly the technology is there. So we've had it out there and sort of beta testing for a while. It works fine.
Can we do password protected?
We're going to do one password for everybody, not individual. Individual passwords, you have to come up with the administrative structure to make sure your passwords are there and changed in the IT support.
So all
And
members
you
would have the
also
same password.
would have to have a much more expensive website hosting.
Sure.
And it would be.
That's what I was getting at. So it would be,
Both
What?
sides. It would cost
Yeah.
more. At this point, the club doesn't pay anything for the website.
and it's not like it's a really secure document anyway. The books are laying on the counter at the clubhouse for sale for $5. That anybody can pick one up and look at anybody's information.
Well, and everybody here knows you can get on Facebook and probably, or not Facebook, on the internet within 20 minutes, come up with everybody's cell phone number and their address. Anyway, that stuff's out there.
cell phone numbers, not so much.
Well, if you know how to deep dive, you can come up with your social security numbers and everything
Are
else.
you deep diving?
No, I just said that for a friend.
Yeah,
Okay. Moving along. Speaking of lakes, I've got a couple things on lakes. Lake Arrowhead and Lake Tomahawk. A company by the name of Lane Interliner has been out, and they can install a liner in the principal spillway on Arrowhead, assuming the liner is intact. Where we're at with them is within the next couple weeks, they're going to come out and run a camera both ways in the pipe and make sure that the integrity is still good enough to where they can put a liner in it. The camera work is going to cost us about $4,500. I believe that Lakes was going to cover that. To install the liner in both lakes, because Tomahawk probably needs one also. We'll know when they do the camera work. That one's going to be, for both of them, in the neighborhood of 75 grand. And we're not sure where we're going to come up with 75 grand when we get to that point. But we're going to have them do the camera work so we can find out what our exposure is going forward. On the subject of lakes, Lake of the Four Seasons, the concrete principal spillway, during a normal inspection, it was discovered that there's a leak And Randy and Rick and I think Sue, I don't know who all's looked at it. We thought that we might have the equipment to potentially lower one of our own maintenance guys down inside and try to use hydraulic cement to fix it. And we don't, our harnesses are outdated, and we don't have any type of a setup to where we could actually reel somebody down there and get them back out if there was a problem. So we are getting a hold of Eigel, I believe, right?
I was gonna get a hold of 2LMN.
2LMN and have them come out and look at it. It's a very small, you can tell it's pinhole leak because it shoots out like somebody squirting a squirt gun. So it's not major, catastrophic, but it's something that we are looking into at the moment. South Central Power, we have had, management committee kind of felt like we've had more than our share of outages, and especially when the power goes out at 6:30 on a Saturday night and costs us probably at least $1,500 worth of sales in the lodge. We instructed Randy to get a hold of our trustee with South Central Power since we're members, and we have a meeting set up for next Thursday to sit down and talk to them about their plans going forward. We know a little bit about their plans because they've shared that they do want to bury the cables in here, the power in here, but we want to know if there's something they can do or what they plan on doing in minimizing our outages. I mean, they respond like that. I mean, everybody gives them credit for, they got people out here within minutes after the power goes down, but it seems to be going down. It went down the last time before the wind started blowing. All it was doing was raining.
Yeah.
And we just kind of want a little bit of an explanation as to what's going on. Post office boxes. We brought that up at the last meeting. We are still working on that. Randy has had conversation with the USPS. They have boxes available. They're trying to relocate them for us to put in the mail house down front. Randy's also had conversation with the Sugar Grove postmaster, and we aren't prepared to make any changes yet in how we address stuff until we talk to some FedEx and UPS people. But we're still on that project. Lastly, John Bops, the food services GM and head chef, and the reason I'm bringing this up here is because all of you guys are intimately involved with committees. He would like to be involved with committees when it comes to planning. He would like to be invited to their meetings when